Got my haircut. Hello, it's Troy A. Shadowing Tronics, day 2 of the art Soundoff for 2018. This is for November 2nd. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the expression, write what you know? What does that mean to you? Does that mean that you can only write the stuff that you've experienced, things that you've personally gone through? I don't think that's the correct case. Obviously, somebody who's gone through certain experiences, if they grew up in the inner city, or if they grew up in the country, or they grew up in another country, obviously they can tell the story better because they've been through it, if they're good writers. And that's the thing. How can you find a good writer who has had these kind of experiences? I mean, not just any writer, a good writer, a writer who can write comics, or whatever medium you're working in, but this is a comic challenge, blogging challenge, so we're going to talk comics. What about if you want to write a Western? What if you wanted to write something about the French Revolution, or the American Revolution, or the Mexican Revolution? Too many revolutions. Too many people have to be revolution, I guess. But if you want to tell this kind of stories, if you want to tell a story about this or that experience, they're going to tell you you've never experienced it, you don't know it. You can know something. You will not know it as well as someone who's been through it. But there's a little thing called research. And in the days of the internet, you can research anything. You can find people who've been through that experience, talk to them, maybe get them to proofread your story, and they can tell you that you've gotten something wrong, and then you can fix it. And the further away you get from that experience, the less important it is. Like, if you want to write a character who was in the inner city, but maybe now he's an architect, or he's an archaeologist, or he's an ornithologist, he's off studying birds, then growing up in inner city may be flavor text, but it's not necessarily the part of the story. And the thing is, if all we wrote about was the things we've experienced and nothing that, there will be experiences that will never be written about because nobody's written. None of the good writers have had that experience. And in fact, like I said, events that are long since past. Billy Tucci wrote a book. I forget the name of it. It was a Sergeant Rock story for DC Comics. I forget the name of it offhand. But when he did the story, he never fought in World War II. The story was about a group of Japanese Americans. There were Americans who, during World War II, for obvious reasons, you couldn't have Americans of Asian descent fighting against the Japanese. But they had no problem sending them against the Nazis. And why would they do that? Why did they still love the country enough that they wanted to fight the Nazis? What were they trying to prove? Trying to show Billy Tucci is not Asian. He did not fight in World War II. He does not have those experiences. So he talked to an actual group of Japanese American soldiers who fought the Nazis in World War II for the Allies. And he learned from their experience, and he talked to them, and he asked them questions. And then he knew. He may not have known firsthand, but how many of us know firsthand what it was like to grow up in Australia when there was still a penal colony? How many of us know what it was like to... I'm trying to think of historical events, but I'm not trying to go to something stupid like prehistoric times. But I think you get my point. You can research. You can learn things. You can talk to people. You can look up interviews. You can look up articles, and you can look up pretty much anything nowadays. I mean, even before then, you had libraries. You still had people who had been in the experience where the experience may be a little fresher in their mind, so they'd be able to tell you even more. When we can't tell you, maybe a good one here. We don't report enough on the good experiences in history, do we? Yeah. But, I mean, you don't know what it was like to hang out with shoot, I forgot her name. Am I making my point? Because I don't know, maybe if it's too late or what. Maybe I should have written some ideas down, some examples down, because all I'm coming up with is wars. And I don't even do war stories. But, I mean, obviously nobody knows how to do analog fictional world like Middle Earth or outer space or any of that stuff. But that's just getting silly, because that's not those kind of experiences are made up. So you can do pretty much anything, but you don't know life experience of someone who grew up in a suburb unless you're someone who grew up in a suburb. You don't know what it was like to be one kind of person in an area filled with other kinds of people. You've never lived that experience, but you can learn, you can find out, and you can still tell a story in that area, or at least create characters who are from these areas, who are from these experiences. And that could be flavor text to whatever it is that they're doing now. It's their history of the character, and it may define their actions during the story. But if that's not what the story is about, then it's not as big a concern. But obviously, the closer you get to an experience as far as its importance to the story, obviously the kids, anybody who's been in that experience, will do it better. But you can learn. You can talk to people and you can research. And I'm just rambling at this point because I'm trying to make this a decent length video. But I think you get my point. It's not about write what you've experienced. It's write what you know. And you can learn all sorts of things. All it takes is just going out there and doing the hard research or doing soft research. That's all your story requires. But don't let everybody tell you can't write something. If you can't write something, maybe you need to go research it so that you can. I hope I made my point. So this is a little short. I'm not going to be doing any art sound-offs over the weekend, so I will be back for Monday. Until then, if you want to see something a little less rambly, because I've actually had time to proofread and edit, you can check out my articles at bwspotlight.com. If you want to check out everybody else who's taking part in the Art Soundoff, you can go to Twitter and look for the hashtag Art Soundoff, or just the Twitter page Art Soundoff, at Art Soundoff, or just look for the Art Soundoff hashtag. And if you decide you want to join in yourself and you want to know how to set up an audio or a video log setup to discuss your own art day and your own opinions on comics and making comics and everything else, maybe you have a unique perspective from the rest of us that are involved. If so, then go to artsoundoff.com and you can find the information there on how to join in. But whatever you do, I'll be back on Monday. Hopefully my thoughts will be a little more clear in what I'm saying. If you have questions, please ask me. I'm happy to answer. And in the meantime, I wish you all happy creating.